Well, hello, Ryan and Rose community and family. We are super excited to just extend the content that we're having on the blog. We're excited to be able to bring this new format and having collaborators like Big Little Feelings and being able to do a video with them. Obviously, during this COVID time and just having distance, we're so excited to be able to get on a Zoom and record it and to be able to provide you guys with great content. So here's Dina and Kristen, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and introduce Big Little Feelings. So Dina, we'll start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and just your background?
Yeah, so I'm Dina Margolin. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist out here in LA, but I work specifically with children and parents. I'm also a mindfulness teacher. I've taught in first and second and kindergarten, and I'm half of Big Little Feelings.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Kristen?
Yeah, and so I'm Kristen. I am a mom of 2 toddlers. I've also been working with toddlers and kids for 10 years, just in various different, taught English in Thailand. I was a nanny, just bits and pieces, and then the real education was having my toddlers as my own, right?
Yes.
And so we started Big Little Feelings because I kept texting Dina nonstop, and I'm like, is this normal? Am I doing this right? I was searching in all of these books and things that I was supposed to read, but no one was telling me exactly what to actually say and do when something happens today. It was all like very broad, attachment kind of things.
Right.
And I was just desperate, being like, Dina, what do I do right now today? My kid did this. So we started Big Little Feelings because we just couldn't find that. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So how did you and Dina know each other?
All right. Dina and I went to high school together.
Oh,
so
wow.
We've known each other. Yeah. So we go way back. We played softball together. We were together all the time. Every bus ride. We've been in each other's weddings. We're the whole deal. We're best friends.
That's awesome. Well, great. Yeah. The blog post that we highlighted on our Ryan and Rose blog is about whining. So the topic of whining, and it's something that all of us parents experience heavily during toddler years. I know our daughter is about 2 years, 4 months. And so that whining and stuff didn't really heavily kick in until she got closer to the 2. And now it's like full on. So let's just talk first and foremost, why do our toddlers whine? Why are they whiny? And just set the stage for that.
Well, I'll go ahead and kick us off. It's kind of like a toddler milestone when they start to whine. So kind of like congratulations that started because it's actually a sign of healthy brain development.
Okay.
So our toddlers whine really because think of it as their brains being super under construction at this age.
Gotcha.
Like 2, 3, 4, these are super critical years where their brains are forming the areas specifically in the front in your cortex that help you think and control your body and, logic and reasoning. So that's still way under development. Also, their language areas are completely under development. And so if we kind of put that all together, they just don't have the skills to communicate when they're frustrated or they're having a big feeling or they need something from you or want something. They don't have the skills to communicate it clearly sometimes without that maybe whiny tone.
Right.
But they also don't have those skills then to kind of regulate down their feelings. So when they're having a big frustrated moment, their brains can't go, oh, I'm feeling really frustrated that dad said no right now, and I could take a deep breath.
Right.
That's a very adult skill.
I think as parents that it's that what Dina is saying, but then combined, we get so frustrated because when our kids start to be able to talk, like 2.5, like you're saying, you're kind of like, I know you can say it. I know you have words, right? So it's like they have the literal language and yet they don't have the ability yet to say, I'm feeling frustrated. I had a bad day. Can you just come play with me? Right. And so you're like, God, just spit it out. Just use your words. Just say it. But because it's lacking, then what comes out is the whiny, high-pitched, unrelated, thing.
Crying, meltdown, explosion. Yeah.
Exactly. So almost think of it as them saying like, hey, I need your attention, or hey, something's really important to me. Can you listen in?
Yeah.
And also just important to note that biologically, like if they're overtired, they're hungry, they're not feeling well, you can expect more whining because they just have less energy to deal in general at those moments. And also, whenever there's a big life change or some sort of stress going on for them, it's super common for them to regress a little bit. And what that means is kind of go back to baby stage, which again, if you think of it, it actually makes a ton of sense because like a baby needs a lot of care and attention. That's kind of what the whining is signaling, is like, hey, they need a little extra love and attention during this maybe time of change.
Right. Yeah, we're going through that right now. Obviously, we have a almost 3-month-old with a 2-year-old. And so she actually didn't show those signs until we had him for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then she started like really melting down even more, so like just understanding it. Sometimes it comes later, and that you have to deal with those things later than even in the current moment. But I like what you said also, just paying attention to biological things. Like we always are paying attention to like how much rest our 2-year-old is getting, how well fed she is, because always when she's not sleeping well or napping well, that always leads to just more meltdowns and more whining.
Yeah, if you forget like one snack, I'm telling you, it's like when the mega meltdown or the mega whining happens, I'll ask my husband, I'll be like, did she have her snack? And he's like, oh, I forgot. It's every time. Every time.
Meltdown city.
Yeah.
Every time.
So let's jump into, and this isn't actually in the blog post, and we wanted to save this for this conversation, but what are our normal pitfalls as parents? When the whining happens, what are the things that we kind of fall into and we accidentally do, but it's not constructive or it's not helping us?
Yeah, so I think that there's 2 main ones that we see. So if and when you can kind of identify like, oh, the poor baby is kind of whining, and like you feel sympathy for them and you feel bad for them, there is a new baby. And so you break down the boundaries, you break down the rules, because you're like, you know what, they're having a tough time. So let's just give them that extra show, or let's just do it. Or conversely, it's, oh my God, I need this to stop. Like, I can't hear this for one more minute. So here's the cookie. Here you go. Like, it's fine. Just here you go. Right. So you have those boundaries, or it's not time for a cookie right now. That's what you have. And when you let those down and you sometimes give a cookie, or you sometimes have the iPad, but sometimes you say, no, we're not having the cookie. No, we're not having the iPad. Well, your kid just learned, okay, if I whine hard enough, long enough, then we're going to get the cookie. We're going to get the iPad. And so the next time that it's time to not have the cookie or to put down the iPad, you can expect to have, they're going to just level up. It's just going to more whining, because they're trying to get what they want. And it kind of worked last time, right? Or the time before. And so as hard as it is, you have to kind of maintain that boundary in a loving way, which we'll get into. That's the first pitfall that we see. And then the second pitfall that we see is we've seen people either ignoring them or sending them to a timeout, which is kind of the same. You don't want to give too much attention into it. That's kind of the methodology, is we don't want to feed into it. So I'm just going to ignore them or put them into a timeout because this is unacceptable, and go in a timeout.
Right.
But like we just discovered, one of the main reasons why they're whining is because they're kind of desperate for your attention. Whether there's a new baby, whether it's because of the pandemic, something is happening, they really want your attention. And so when you're putting them alone, isolating them, or ignoring them, you're kind of just making this vacuum, right? It just keeps sucking it out. And they're like, oh, but I need you. And they're going to up the whining more and more and more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Dina, anything else there on the pitfalls that we should know about?
Yeah, I think echoing what Kristen said, and just one more point that I hear parents making is, but if I give in to the whining, if I listen to them, am I reinforcing the whining? Am I just going to make it so that's their go-to strategy? And I really want to bust that myth and just say the answer is no. And we are going to give you a strategy to use instead, and to really trust that as their brains continue to develop and their skills develop, they'll grow out of whining. This is not their forever method of communication. Right.
And I like what you guys say is that just addressing the whining in the moment and addressing your toddler in the moment, that doesn't mean you're giving in to the whining. That doesn't mean you're encouraging the whining. Like you guys have said, they're seeking attention. There's obviously other factors there. They may be hungry, they may need certain things, but they're seeking your attention. So yeah, let's jump into these steps and handling the whining, and helping parents to know, like, hey, it doesn't mean you just need to put them in timeout and you need to ignore it. What are the actual like steps? What are some great ways that we can actually address it and start to work on just kind of the discipline of that, and how we're going to kind of formulate our reaction to it, and how we can kind of adjust our toddler to, over time, to maybe not break down so much.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that one of the most important places to start, and this is so hard. I mean, I almost don't even want to say it because you're like, well, how, right? But it's like to stay calm. It's to stay calm. And we say that a lot. And what we mean is, if you can, do your best at staying calm. And the reason why is when you're like, oh my God, you're like, God, you're driving me crazy, or any of those kinds of reactions that I have too. We all have it.
Yeah.
When you do that, when you're calm and confident and secure and kind of the leader of your home, your toddler feels safer. And so when you kind of unravel and you lose your cool, then they don't feel safe anymore. And when they don't feel safe anymore, then they start to whine even more. Yeah, because it reverts them again back to that baby behavior, right? So just the most important thing is to try to stay calm.
Which is much easier in the morning when your child's asking for snacks rather than at 7 p.m. when they're asking
bedtime.
for
Bedtime. Yeah, we all need like a reminder on our phone maybe every 3 minutes to be like, stay calm, stay cool, stay calm, just in sequence until you get through bedtime.
Yeah, which is extremely difficult to, I think we have to address it, extremely difficult too during this pandemic time where the kids have been at home so much. You can't go anywhere. You can't get that energy out, What, just real quick, let's go down that tangent. What are some steps, or what is a step, and how do we stay cool and confident during this pandemic and just dealing with the situation that is handed to us right now?
Yeah. I would say, whenever you have this kind of like your stress reaction is coming up, because for a lot of us, that's going to be really natural and really normal. Like, we don't have our usual refuel resources. We can't go to a yoga class. You can't go hang out with your friends and have a boys' night or a girls' night and restore that way. So if you're feeling that way, that's totally natural. And in those moments when we need our calm back, just stopping for a moment and even just letting your shoulders kind of relax and helping your body release, or taking a deep breath can be a game changer. Like, even one deep breath can change it all. We actually have a little tool that's pretty helpful. It's STOP, which is an acronym for whenever a big feeling is happening for you as the parent, just stop for a second. T is take a breath. O is observe what's happening in you, because just by naming your own feeling, you kind of get control back.
Right.
And then P is proceed. Now, after those steps, you can proceed with a little bit more kind of calm confidence, like Kristen was saying.
Right.
Yeah. And I would also say that, I think that sometimes that also, like, that can work, and that's great. And then also know that might not always work. Right. And so for me personally, because we're in a pandemic, it's likely that two partners are home. Maybe they are not. And in which case, put on the iPad, desperate times, it's okay. But for me personally, I have to know, like, all right, I can't even do the stop tool right now. I need to like tag out right this second, and that's okay. Like, I kind of get ahead of it, and I'm like, I'm about to go into somewhere that I'm not really wanting to go right now. I need to tap out right this second. And I'm not kidding. I'll just, Tyler, you got to step in. Right. And the other thing too, is that we as parents, we got to find an hour or some kind of way, even if you can't go to yoga literally, or you can't do the things we used to do, we need to get creative and go for a walk by ourselves. I feel like so many of us parents aren't prioritizing it as much because it's not structured. It's not like, all right, on Tuesday and Thursday, I used to have my, this or that. And now we really have to make it a point so that we're not so burnt out to be like, every Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going for a walk by myself. I'm having some wine on a patio by myself, or I'm going to sit in a parking lot somewhere. So important. It's like a game changer.
Yeah. Truly, taking a drive these days, like, that is mental health break.
Yeah. Yep. Gas is cheap, so take a drive. I love it. So staying cool and confident for the parents to stop. So what are some of these other steps in continuing down the path of handling the whining?
So the next thing you want to do then is you really want to see them and okay the feeling that's there. So think of it almost as accepting and acknowledging whatever is happening inside for them, because just by you caring about them, that can settle down big feelings so quickly. Like, think if you've had a hard moment, right? It feels so much better if someone is sitting there with you just saying, you know what, that is hard. That does sound stressful, rather than telling you, you know what, it's not a big deal, or you can handle it. You're okay. You're okay.
Yeah.
Right? That makes you more amped up a lot of times, and same for our toddlers. So just by saying, you know, I hear that you really want this, or I see that you're feeling really frustrated right now. I hear you. It's okay to feel frustrated. And just nurturing that by seeing them and okaying it, it can be a total game changer.
Well, I do have a question, because I did see that, and it's something that I've been trying to practice myself with our 2-year-old. For our younger toddlers whose language maybe isn't as established, they're communicating more, but like, I don't think my daughter knows what the word frustrated means, you know? So sitting down with her and trying to like empathize and tell her like, I understand this or that, you know, sometimes I feel like she does understand some of it. And then there's times where I'm like, she probably has no idea what I'm saying, you know, or especially in the moment when she's just so worked up. So for our younger toddlers, do we just continue to just like get down with them, talk to them? What do we do?
So that's actually what I was going to say is the other reason why we do it. So the first one is what Dina said, which is it can really just make them feel better, just feeling like, okay, I'm with you. But the other side of it is your toddler actually doesn't know what frustrated is, right? Just like you just said, she has no idea what angry means or frustrated means or any of those things mean. So when they're whining over something and they're not saying those things, right? You as the parent, when you get down to their level and you say, you're frustrated that you want the cookie, you're really angry because you want this or that. The reason we're doing that is that then in 6 months, because their language, by the way, is so rapidly, in 6 months, in 8 months, in a year, instead of the whining, they're going to be able to now turn to you, be the 3-year-old on the playground, the only one who turns to you and says, Mama, I'm feeling kind of tired. I want blah, blah, blah. And you'll be like, whoa. Yeah. So that's the other reason we do it. Even if you think they're not understanding, you're actually just teaching them. That's how they're going to learn those feelings and connect them to be able to stop kind of whining or the hitting or the other thing that they're doing right now.
Right.
And it's super important to note that toddlers, they can comprehend before they can speak back.
Right.
So starting early is super key to building a healthy foundation for as you move forward.
Right. Yeah. I think back to just trying to learn a second language myself, you know, and going to a foreign country and trying to speak that language. And I try to relate that sometimes to how my toddler might be feeling. You have these feelings or you have these needs that you want to express to somebody else, but you don't have all the words for it, and how frustrating that feels, you know? So yeah, no, I love it. I love that even just the tactic of getting down with them on their level and not standing over them and being like, no, you know, we're not going to have that. We're not going to do that, you know, but just getting down with them and just trying to comfort them. I mean, that has gone a long way for me and my daughter. And, you know, she may not calm down perfectly every time, but normally when I'm down with her, it really does reduce the tension and we're able to actually make progress in a certain direction.
And I love that, because really releasing feelings and allowing them to express it, that is so healthy, rather than the opposite is kind of having them stuff it away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're feeling, I hate it, or I don't like it right now. Stop it. Don't do it. Let's move on. Yeah. Because I mean, even as adults, if we're reacting or we're having a bad day, you know, or I know that if I'm grumpy or something like that, I don't want a family member or spouse to be like, just put that aside, you know, stop being grumpy, you know, and be a nicer person, you know, that just makes it worse, you know? So I think we have to identify with that and deal with our kids the same way.
I mean, seriously, like, can you even think back on a time when somebody is like, calm down? Yeah. When they're like, calm down, and you're just like, oh my God, you know? And so that's why, how many times a day do you want to say that or do say that to your toddler, where it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's a purple crayon, you know, they're just going to escalate the way we would if somebody were like, hey, calm down. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So are there some other steps in there that we need to get to before we jump to y'all's 10-minute miracle, which I really like as well?
Yeah. So I think that the next step, which is like honestly the most important step, and we've touched on it already, but the most important step is to hold that boundary.
Right.
So whether the whining is, we discovered that the root of the whining is they just need some extra love and attention, or the root of the whining is they want that extra cookie. They know it's working, so they're going to whine extra hard. Doesn't matter, whatever the scenario is, we want to hold that boundary. And again, you can do it in a really loving way, which is like, I see you want a cookie. I hear you want a cookie. It's not cookie time yet. Or I see you want iPad. I hear you want iPad. Well, they're whining and whining and whining. Mm-hmm. It's not time for iPad. That's one of the most important steps, because they're going to learn that they're not going to get it's okay to feel how they feel. It's okay to be feeling this way, but it's not going to change the outcome. And when they learn it's not going to change the outcome, we're not going to level up every single time to more and more and more and more to try to get mom or dad to say yes.
Right. Right. And working on those things now when they're 2 or 3 helps to not have to have so much maybe regression in a certain way that we have to deal with those when they're 6 or 7, and it's even more inflated.
Exactly. When you do what you say you mean as a parent, again, in a very loving way, which I think everybody can see from our page, they probably think it's mostly lovey and fluffy and things like that. The boundary holding doesn't have to be this like very stern or domineering or anything. It's a really calm way of taking the confidence, being the leader of your home. And yeah, when they're 6 or 7, or even in 1 month or 2 months, or every single time you hold that boundary, they think, okay, mom says iPad's done, iPad is done. Like that's how it happens. When that doesn't happen every time, then they think, what should I do to try to get more iPad? Or today, should we get 1 more episode? Or am I going to get 7 more episodes? Or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love something that my dad always told me was, you as the parent, you get to set the boundaries, Don't let the child set the boundaries. You get to set the boundaries.
Yeah. It's not a safe space for them to be. They honestly don't, like, you think your toddler wants to be in charge. They seem like they want to be in charge, but truly they feel safer and everybody is calmer when you have that calm sort of confidence and control over what's happening overall.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tina, boundaries?
Yeah, no, I think she nailed it. And then staying consistent is super key. And you can show up with love. Listen, they can be upset about the boundary. If they really want more iPad time and you're not having any, you can show up while you hold the boundary and nurture that feeling too, saying, I know it is so hard. You really want more. And then the next step is to shift to the yes, where we highlight something that they can look forward to or something they do have age appropriate control over. Right. So we will have more iPad time tomorrow. What show do you want to watch? Do you want a Daniel Tiger or do you want Elmo?
Right.
You choose something that helps them cope and feel in control and feel heard and valued, which shifts them from being kind of in a power struggle mode to collaboration mode with you.
Right.
So that can be super key, shifting to the yes.
Right. Shifting to the yes. Yeah. I love it. And also, like, you're creating the boundary, but you're also giving them some control within the boundary. I think that's super helpful for them to know, like, hey, I'm telling you when you're going to have TV time, but when it comes time for TV time, you get to choose, within that boundary as well. You get to choose.
Exactly. Yeah. And it might be something like, as a parent, we choose when bedtime is.
Right.
A child or a toddler decision gets to be, we're going to read 2 books. What 2 books do you want to read?
Right.
Or, it's bedtime. What jammies do you want to wear? Do you want your rocket ship ones or your truck ones?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We always compare this to like being the confident leader, kind of as if you were like the leader of like a Fortune 500 company. And so you're the one who's in charge. I mean, you're setting the tone when people are coming to work, what time lunch is, things like that. Right. But you want your employees to feel like they're valued and that they matter and that it's a collaboration. This isn't a dictatorship. And so that's where those little choices where do you want to wear the red shoes or the blue shoes, that just age appropriate choices to make them feel powerful. And it's not so domineering all the time, but you're holding the boundaries. You're choosing the big stuff.
Right. Love it. Good stuff. 10-minute miracle. You guys ready to go there? Okay.
Yeah.
I really like this one. Tell us what the 10-minute miracle is all about.
So this is the idea of really remembering that whining, or really any big change in behavior, an unwanted behavior specifically, whether it's hitting and biting or whining in this case, that this is a sign of them trying to get your attention. So if we look at it that way, the 10-minute miracle is all about giving them positive attention so that they don't rely on those unwanted negative behaviors to get your attention. Like that's how bad they want your attention and care, is they'll do anything for it. So proactively setting aside 10 minutes each day where there's no phones, no distractions, no siblings. It's just you and your toddler. Give it a special name, like it's Charlie Mommy time.
Right.
So it feels really exciting and special. And then let them pick the activity and just be with them. There's no correcting, no teaching going on. You're just following their lead and filling up their attention and love tank proactively.
Right. I love it.
And so the 10 minutes too, we're together all day long, so especially in a pandemic. So you're like, is this really necessary? Like, we're literally together all day. But if you think about it, we're shuffling, we're back and forth, and we're getting things, and we're doing the scooper, and then we're looking at our phone. And so it's really just setting that exact intent time. And on the other side, parents have also been like, 10 minutes? Do they really only need 10 minutes? And honestly, yes. Like, if you really commit to 10 full minutes and you calendar it in, and the important part is every single day, so that at the end of 10 minutes, you can say, okay, Charlie, I can't wait for tomorrow's 10 minutes. That's the key. It can only take 10 minutes. If you want to be like an overachiever and give them 15 or 20, that's up to you. That's great. But we're so busy and there's so much going on that it really can only take just 10 focused minutes to just fill that tank right back up.
Right. And does this, say you have multiple toddlers, do you need to do 10 minutes per toddler, or what's your take there?
Yeah. So, and again, in a pandemic, there are strategic ways. If you have two partners, then that's ideal, of course, if there's two of you. So take one child at a time. I mean, if we have to do an iPad or something like that for the other kid in order to make it work, then we do that. But if we can just find 10 focused minutes, and that's each kid. So that's super important, is that the baby who's kind of always on your boob or bottle or whatever, or strapped in, the baby's not there for those 10 minutes. That's the really important part, is that it's just you and them. Crucial.
Right. Yeah, I love that. No, I definitely, and that is really difficult. It's like, even when we're just transitioning from, like, if I'm leaving my desk for work and, and it's time to put work away, I'll still go to the living room and like pull out my phone and I'm checking something while building blocks, and I totally agree. Like, it's the times where it's like, okay, if I'm going to leave my desk, just drop my phone in the kitchen and go in the living room or something, and you end up spending 10, 15 minutes and you're having this great bonding connection time with your child, and you're not having the meltdowns and the issues that you would normally have, or them coming up and hitting you.
Yeah. And it's not like the intent behind it. It's okay if this doesn't happen every time, but a really cool bonus is that a lot of times, like, it's really dope for you as a parent. Like, I know that me, like, so as the day goes on, I'm getting kind of like more and more annoyed and triggered and exhausted. I'll just be honest. It's just like, but there's something super magical about, like, this is the time that we have together, and you go back to this like really cool bonding space that you haven't been in so long. Right. It can be really nice for everybody.
Right. Yeah. We need more time period with the devices down.
That's literally, my husband was like, Lulu gets a 10-minute miracle. Can I get a 10-minute miracle today? And I was like, we should just all do the 10-minute miracle. Everybody needs a 10-minute, and then I need a 10-minute miracle by myself. You know what I mean? Everybody gets their 10-minute miracle.
I'm gonna have my 10-minute miracle with a glass of wine or a beer.
That's right. It's a miracle.
I love it. That's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think everything that you guys have shared in the blog post, but just also in the rest of your content, whether that's on social media. Go ahead and toss out your Instagram for Big Little Feelings. What is it?
Yeah, it's at Big Little Feelings on Instagram. Perfect. And then we have our website, biglittlefeelings.com.
Yeah.
And we have our course, Winning the Toddler Stage, which you can find through our website or on our Instagram.
Yeah, I love your Instagram, especially on the highlights. You guys save a lot of just great information there. I've gone through all the highlights. That's how I picked up on just, sitting down with my toddler when she's whining and just trying to get on her level. That's just something that's I've learned to be super helpful from y'all's just Instagram account. Also, we just transitioned our daughter off of her pacifier, and I took some of y'all's tips on that whole process. Obviously, pacifiers are a big thing of what we do here at Ryan and Rose. And we love our pacifiers, but we understand that those have a shelf life for our kids. And so I love what you guys talked about there, and maybe we'll talk about that at a future time.
Yeah, I mean, we're here for you, and that's kind of like what we're here for, right? It's the thing of like what you just kind of touched on. You guys love your pacifiers, your kids love your pacifiers, so let them love their pacifier.
Right.
Don't worry about a pacifier. We have people who are like 8 months, 7 months, babies messaging us like, don't worry about the pacifier. Pacifiers are awesome. And then when we get closer to 2 or 3, we'll share with you. We got you. We have a highlight on it. And we got you.
A plan for you. Yeah.
We have a plan. You don't have to worry.
Awesome. Well, I love this content because this is just relevant to every single parent, because all toddlers whine. All toddlers are, like you said, their brains are developing. They don't know how to express and share their emotions, and they're just feeling all these big emotions. So all this is relevant to every single one of us, moms, dads, every family. And I love just the practicality, like we said at the beginning, the practicality of y'all's steps toward how we can actually work with our kids and deal with these hard things, especially in a season that is truly difficult top to bottom for all of us, So Dina and Kristen, thank you guys so much. Kristen and Dina are Big Little Feelings, so go follow them. They're definitely a great follow. From all of us here at the Ryan and Rose team, thank you so much for checking into our content. We hope to have more collaborations like this in the future, because we want to continue to provide everybody with great educational content along with other content, and that goes along with Ryan and Rose. So Dina and Kristen, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.